Welcome to Anchored at Harbor Park CrossFit, a show dedicated to helping you find enrichment for the other 23 hours of your day outside of the gym. Here's your hosts, Jason, Dave, and Corian.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Coach Dave, and you're listening to Anchored at Harbor Park CrossFit, the podcast show, episode 50.
All right, and I'm Coach Corian. We're a little out of our element today. We're missing a little piece of ourselves.
Yeah, Coach Jason, he is out of town, so we're shooting this episode with just the two of us. It's going to be kind of weird, like we're talking. I feel like we should be texting.
It's usually how our life goes.
All right, so you have an icebreaker for us today, Corian?
I do. So the sunlight is prompting me to think about this today. And Origin Meals had just posted that their new spring menu is going to be coming out starting next week. So I want to know, Dave, what is your favorite thing about spring?
My birthday. No, I'm just kidding. Just how everything starts budding and it feels like life is coming back to normal. The trees, the birds, the warmer weather, obviously. Everything green starts to come back to life. It's just, when the flowers start to bud and everything, and just I think the fresh air smells really good.
Yep, yeah, last one was mine, fresh air. Being in the house right now with the dogs, all the windows closed up, kind of like that, you just get stuffy, and just the thought of being able to open up the doors, open up the windows, get some fresh air, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I've already had people ask me when we're going to start doing running wads.
Ooh.
I said, unfortunately, right now there's too much snow on the ground, and that keeps freezing, so a little dangerous on the ice right now, but we will be.
Yeah, you can see how poorly the plowing went when you can see that, the curb, and then the snow is still 4 inches off of it. But
yes.
It'll be here before we know it, and then you guys will have lots of running.
And then you'll be complaining about it. Episode 50. So today, Corian, what are we talking about?
So this is something that I've kind of realized in the last couple weeks that a lot of people are coming to me about, and I don't know if it's just because holidays are over and everybody's trying to get back into the gym, and there's not a lot of other things to focus on, so everybody's just focusing on their training and all of that sort of stuff. But I'm getting a lot of people who are talking to me about their performance and how things don't seem to be progressing the way they think they should be right now with as much effort as they're putting in. So I've had a lot of deep conversations with people about their stress on their body, physical stress, mental stress, work, all of that sort of stuff, and how it kind of relates to their training.
Yeah, and especially with the lack of sunlight, and then you have the cold weather, it doesn't bode well for you being very motivated.
Yeah. I think that people greatly underestimate their body trying to tell them when to slow down. So this is something that is super hard to do, and it's not a hard, fast rule for everyone, and it's not the same. But there's a difference between trying to push through when you're just not very motivated, and then there's a time that you actually need to just slow down. Your body's just too fatigued, too overwhelmed, and giving yourself some extra rest days or limiting the volume or anything like that is going to do you far more good than trying to push through a workout.
So what does that look like? How would somebody know? Because there's days where maybe you wouldn't be able to figure that out. So is there a telltale sign?
Yeah. So this is why it's difficult, because I don't think it's like a switch. It's not like one day you wake up and things aren't going well and you're like, okay, I need to take a step back. For instance, with me, a couple weeks, I just wasn't feeling very motivated. And it wasn't just my fitness. I was fitnessing and I was getting the stuff in and the open's here and I'm really excited about it. But when it came to everything around, outside of that, getting work done for the business, paperwork, or being creative in my own personal vlogs and my writing and my posts and things that I'm doing, I just felt very sluggish. And I was just having a very hard time figuring out why I wasn't excited and motivated to do that stuff. And then after about a week and a half, I realized, because I do a log, I realized I haven't been sleeping again. It was one of those points where I was just hitting, it wasn't bad sleep, but it wasn't great sleep. I was just tossing and turning a lot. I was waking up a bit. and I never just really felt rested. And then I got like 3 solid nights of sleep over the weekend, last weekend, and all of a sudden Monday I was like right back in my old self. Like I was getting things knocked off my to-do list. I was like cleaning up around the gym. The house got clean for the first time in probably a month, stuff like that. And I was like, oh, okay. It was my body just telling me like I needed to scale back. My intensity of my workouts weren't that bad. And I didn't do a lot of extra stuff, did a lot of mobility, and got some sleep.
Yeah, I had this probably back in early February, just before the Open. Just couldn't keep up with the training. I was feeling like just wiped out. It almost feels like a constant, I wouldn't say, it's like a deep tired feeling, I guess. Like you're, like it's not that you're just tired and you want to go to sleep. It's just, it's deep in your body. Like everything just kind of feels, even your muscles, your joints, you just feel fatigued and drained, I guess is the best way to say it. You're just drained, and it's basically your central nervous system is taxed and needs to regenerate.
And I know we've talked about this before, and this doesn't have to necessarily do with the amount of volume that you're doing in the gym. A lot of us are sticking to the 1 class, the hour a day, and doing our mobility. But what are you doing the other 23 hours of your day? Is work really stressful because we're in a new year? Did you get promoted to a new position now that is taking a little bit more energy, a little bit more mindset? Maybe bosses got switched around and now you have a new boss that's just coming at you differently. Did you have a new baby? How are things going with your relationships with not only your significant other and your spouse, but other family relationships? Your body doesn't really know a difference between mental stress and physical stress. So even though my volume's lower because it's the Open right now, there's a lot of other things going on in my life. And like I said, without sleeping, it was kind of the snowball effect. So all of those things are contributing factors, and those are why we sometimes don't realize that it's our body needing to slow down.
Yep, and it's also some of the things, what are you doing to help? So we go to the gym, like you said, if you're doing the hour a day, and then you think you're sleeping, but maybe you're not, but like what are the other things you're doing? So instead of sitting in front of TV where we're always wired, or playing on our phones where we're always wired, and we've talked about that, and then you're going to work and you're always wired, you don't have any decompression time. So what are you doing to take care of yourself mentally? Is it yoga? Is it Ramwad? Is it
journaling,
meditation? These are all things that your body needs and is proven to help you mentally and to regenerate. So, and we've talked about our habits and our morning routines, but I make sure that I do my Ramwad every morning because that's kind of like my yoga. And then also for mindset, I either listen to my mindset podcast, which is like a new one that I found. It's like 8 minutes long, and it's just daily motivation. Talks about that stuff. And then there's another one, the Headspace, that I'll do for meditation. I'll do a 3 to 5 minute meditation every day.
Yeah, and I think the biggest indicator that things aren't going well is our sleep. So everybody sits here in our culture and thinks, well, that's just what we do. I'm going to just get 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night, or, I'm just used to tossing and turning. And that was my life for 10 years, even through having the gym. And I think in this last year, I've really honed in my sleeping pattern and realized it is not normal to wake up constantly throughout the night. It's not normal to toss and turn. It's not healthy. It's not healthy to only get 4 or 5 hours of sleep. And honestly, if you are someone who doesn't sleep well, it's like being sick, but not realizing what it's like to be healthy. So you're just not realizing what more potential you could have if you were sleeping the full 7-8 hours of a solid, restful sleep. And once you do, and you do that consistently, you're gonna be like, oh my God, there's a huge difference in my energy and my thought process, my mood.
Yeah, they say that, let's say if you go to the gym and you got 6 hours or four to 6 hours of unbroken sleep, kind of shitty sleep, and then you were to have the same sleep, but 8 to 9 hours of restful sleep where it was sound sleep, and you came into the gym, everything the same,
Same person,
there's no different abilities, it's the same you, and you put side by side, the person with the less sleep, you're operating at about 60 to 70% of your optimal potential. So you can imagine like some days like why you're not hitting a lift, or you're like, oh, I didn't 1 rep max, or I couldn't hit my old 1 rep max. Well, if you look back at your sleeping, everything plays a role here. We talk about nutrition quite a bit, about fueling your body for these workouts, but sometimes it's not all about nutrition. You also have to sleep.
So when you're sleeping, your body is rebuilding, it's rejuvenating, it's cleaning out your adrenal glands, it's producing hormones, it's doing all the things it needs for you to regenerate. So when we're cutting our sleep from 7 to 8 hours down to 4 to 5, you're never fully recovering. So think of it like a battery. You're always just charging it to about 70, 75%. And then you're running on that all day instead of charging it to 100%. And eventually that's going to catch up to you. And I know that it's hard to think about sleep. Like I said, especially when we have work and we have training and we have families and we have all these things going on. But I'm going to challenge everybody. For 2 weeks, make sleep a priority in your life over just about everything else, and you will see a gigantic change in everything. If you are struggling to lose weight or gain muscle mass or, PR your lifts or gain energy in the gym, but you scale back for just 2 weeks and make sure that sleep is priority, you're going to start seeing that progress. And then from there, we can keep moving forward.
I think you hit another important part too, is people, if you're struggling with losing weight, how important sleep is to losing that visceral fat around the belly and midsection, because it's and it's on the tip of my tongue right now. I just can't think of it, but the chemical process that's in the body that builds that, keeps that fat in from lack of sleep or stress. Maybe Corian, you can help me with this word.
Cortisol levels?
Yeah, there we go, cortisol level.
I didn't want to cut you off.
Yeah, thank you. So your cortisol levels go higher, and when you're not sleeping and stressed, those levels raise in your body, and then it stores fat, and it's harder.
Yeah, and they never kind of get flushed out. So this is the hardest part. This is something I struggle with, even myself. The realization that taking a short time back is going to do more benefits in the long run than continuing to train or eat healthy or tax your body. And I think that the reason being is because sometimes we're afraid to fall down that slippery slope of going backwards where, 1 day off turns into 2 days off, turns into a week off, and then we can't get back at it. And that's a risk. But we have to understand that our health and wellness is a lifelong journey. We're not training for something that's tomorrow. So if you ask yourself, what's going to do me more good for whatever it is that your goal is, you'll be able to answer that question whether or not you should take a little bit of, downtime. And again, I'm not saying don't come to the gym, just lower that intensity for a bit and then get back after it. And, you can come in, you can ride the bike, or you can row, or you can do the workout, just maybe the funk bod and slow it down. I do that all the time. And so it's definitely something that we need to work on as a culture, because I think the biggest thing is everybody pushes through. I see people with, torn hands and they're tired and, bad form, and they're just like, nope, I got to keep practicing. I'm like, you're just ingraining all these bad habits into your body, and your body's trying so desperately to tell you to come back.
So what are some easy things that we can do to, I guess, maybe not excel, but maximize our sleep?
Ooh, maximizing sleep. So obviously Dave and I do a very much better job. No cell phones in our bedroom. We took our TV out last spring. It's been almost a year with no TV. I can't even imagine it being in there anymore. We have like a sleep habit, and I'm even finding that if we start to go to bed late, so the nights that I'm here in the gym and we don't get into bed to start that sleep routine till after 10, I'm just wrecked.
Yep, the sleep, it throws me off too, and then I have the worst night of sleep.
It's like I'm already stressing that I'm not going to get my sleep.
Like I have to lay down, we have to be in bed for me by 9:30, so that's just my routine. And if it's after 9:30, even 20 minutes.
Other things got to get cut.
Then
I don't read,
Yeah, but even I'm saying like if something, I get caught at the gym late or whatever, and I get out late, I go to bed 10 o'clock. It's like my sleep is restless because I'm out of that sleep pattern already.
So finding a good sleep routine is vital. So you have to have a nighttime routine and a morning routine. So we both talked about both of ours. My goal is to get into bed before 10 o'clock, into the, laying in bed. And then I journal. I write about my day. I start decompressing. My phone's in the bathroom. It's not in our bedroom. My alarm's set. We use one of those light up alarms that, mimics sunrise. And I start to get comfortable. I decompress. I might read for a little bit and stuff like that. I'm trying not to do a lot of social stuff after a certain time, but that sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But then my morning routine is just as important. Get up, I have my coffee in bed, I journal, I again read and do some different things to get ready. Then I start checking. Then I go grab my phone and I'll check for messages, emails, that stuff. Then I go have breakfast.
Yep. So the biggest thing is just getting into a routine and trying to keep that as a habit, and that'll reset kind of like your sleep patterns. Some other things that can help you would be some nighttime tea. A big thing is shutting off the social media and stop with all the electronics, I guess. We do watch some of our Netflix shows sometimes but generally they're like biographies and documentaries. So nothing that's going to get your brain overly thinking, like the news would be a bad example, because a lot of negative connotations there, and a lot of negative news gets you kind of thinking and fired up, and then you're not going to relax. So nature documentaries would be fine because it's calming. And then I'd shut off my phone. My phone automatically has a shut off and doesn't give me any notifications after 8 o'clock. So that's kind of like my cutoff time, where it's like, nope, if it's a super emergency, you can ring my phone. But I figure, there's Corian and there's also Jason. If there's a true emergency, I'll check it before I go to bed one more time, just to make sure that it's, something didn't happen. But
and I think the biggest thing too with that is like Dave was saying, with the constant tossing and turning, your mind running, what happens is when we don't give our brain time to decompress before we go to sleep, it doesn't get to run through all the things it's stressing about. And I think a lot of people do a couple different things. I did this, when I laid down and my mind would be racing and running, I would try and stop doing that, count sheep or, whatever it is, because you need to just ignore it so you go to bed. But when you ignore issues, they're just going to bubble under the surface. So now I actually lay down and I spend I don't know how long it takes me to fall asleep. Sometimes 5, sometimes 20 minutes. I would think it feels like, for my mind to run through all the things it wants to run through. And I just let it do its thing. And the more you do that, the faster that it becomes. And then obviously it depends on your day too. Like if I have a really super busy day and I didn't get to decompress during the day, it's going to take me longer to decompress at night. But if I had time where I sat in my car for 5 minutes before I went into the gym or after I left the gym, and I let it do these dumps throughout the day, makes it easier for me to do the dump at night and then not think about things and go to bed faster.
Yeah. So the biggest thing, listen to your body. Don't ignore that feeling of feeling drained. Actually, you're doing more damage than good. Mm-hmm. Even though you're like, I'm just tired and I'll just push through it. Like sometimes we're tired. Sometimes we didn't get a lot of sleep, and it's okay to push through it. But when you have that drained feeling where you just your
and
energy,
it's lasting for several days or several weeks, we've got to check ourselves. Severe mood swings. I know that when I wasn't sleeping, I was crabbier. Change in appetite. When your performance or your nutritional goals kind of plateau or even start going backwards. Those are all the signs that we're going in a direction we don't want to be going. Again, this isn't like an overnight. It's not going to be just a switch that turns on either way. But if it's several days where it's feeling like this, relook at exactly what you're doing in your life.
Yeah, and then focus on checking your sleep, making sure you're getting 7 to 8 hours of a night's sleep, sound sleep, pitch black in the dark, and then, maybe it's time for a little bit of a reset, and that can take longer for some, but it can go a little bit quicker if maybe you do some of the things we talked about, meditation, yoga, or ramwads, even coming in, and if you have to be in the gym, that's fine. Maybe just do lower intensity. Maybe we're just going to do some funk bod instead of ramping it up. Maybe we're just going to ride a bike or row and, just jam out to some music, It's things like that. And then recharge those batteries, and you'll feel better.
Yeah, exactly. Again, long-term health, guys. Even if we're competitive athletes, you're competing long-term. This is not generally something that is going to come up this weekend. So we have to think about what's going to do the best for our bodies throughout our entire time.
But let me point out, you said we're not competitive athletes, but I'm going to say that competitive athletes,